it going? As always, Thursday, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Time for another RCS Live. As always, Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering, hanging out with you today. Very excited to introduce our brand new audio display. This could be so cool for you and your station. Been really excited to showcase this. Had in our back pocket for a little bit, and we're excited to show it for you today. Answer your questions also live in real time. So, of course, you know the drill. Get some housekeeping out of the way. Don't forget, always looking for beta users for our Zeta 523.1 that's coming out very shortly, as well as some G Selector 5.1, new features, and all of that good stuff with Revma, audio display, this, that, a lot of moving pieces here. Zeta Cloud, RCS Cloud, all of that good stuff. So if you're ever curious about any of that stuff, you can always reach out to us at marketing@rcsworks.com. You can email me, reach out to support, your local RCS sales representative, whomever. We'll get you in touch and we'll answer your questions for you live in real time. Don't forget, too, we're going to be on the road. I just got back from Orlando for the College Broadcasters. That was a phenomenal show. We're doing, of course, audio display today. And then next week, we're going to be, or week after, we're going to be in Argentina. That's really, really exciting. As well as the Alaskan Broadcast Association convention. That's going to be in Alaska. I'll be there hanging out. Some really great things been on the pipeline as well. I know the NAB New York show is going on right now in my, I say backyard, but I'm their backyard, but you know what I mean. So anyway, yeah, let's get into it and talk about audio display. Yes, I have the chat open. You can always check out past videos on our archive over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live. And don't forget to check your backup paths and all that good stuff. A reminder to send data exchanges and all of that good stuff. So, yes, we are here. The chat is open. Mark, as always, how's it going? And also Nick. Hey, Nick, we're in. Awesome. Enrique, hey, what's going on, everybody? I love it. This is great. Great stuff. So, yeah, you can tell I have my chat open here on the right-hand side, and I got little things here, too, over there. So, let's dive right in. Talk about audio display. So, this is one of those things. It's going to be I'm going to show you how to set up a campaign and look at how you kind of set up on the Zeta side. But from the actual user's perspective, what we're talking about here is these guys in here. You're driving in your car or your HD radio at home, and you see kind of the now playing information, right? And then all of a sudden, you have spot blocks, right? And then those spot blocks are essentially going to deviate from your normal traditional programming. What if you can tap into that and do, I say an override, but we'll be more professional here and call it a campaign, so that we have some type of advertiser, visually speaking, that can go and then change your RDS and return back to your now playing information. That's what we have here with audio display. And as you can see, our marketing website here, audiodisplay.com. Shout out to Corey and the team over there. You can check that out, some more details. Also this video as well. And yes, Bob, how's it going? Greetings from Wisconsin. Thank you for checking in, Bob. Appreciate it. Any questions? I'm here for you. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X. I think we're still on X, right? All that good stuff. So what this really does from a conceptual perspective is it adds a new revenue stream for you and your station, right? Think about it. If this didn't exist beforehand and exists now, and you get to go to advertisers and say, do you want your visual name in people's cars during spot blocks and have a prominent advertising package? And all of a sudden it turns into a no-brainer. And we have a lot of users right now all throughout the US internationally that are trying to jump on this bandwagon because it's such a unique programming experience. And by the way, similar to that of, Revma and streaming numbers, this is one of those things that it pays for itself based on your advertising package pretty quickly, right? Because the idea is that, yeah, you're purchasing this new product for an advertising campaign. That just means you should charge more for what you're going to get. And the more listeners you have, the more in cars you have, the more tracking you have in cars, the more that you can actually monetize this and show some numbers and values about those people in their car driving around, seeing, in this case, our little demo account, James and Joseph's travel tours at J&J Travel, right? Look at that. That's so prominent to have in your dashboard. So it's one of those, in my opinion, a good problem to have, because we're actually talking about ways to allow you to advertise, or create new advertising campaigns for your clients that really make it unique, right? And justified there too. So I can see a Fred here in Panos as well. Any questions? I'm here for you as well, right? So I'm not going to be able to show a lot because obviously I'm not driving in my car right now. But the beauty is that you can see how this works from the back end. And that's me jumping over here to our audio display. Now you'll notice this is again a true URL. And what you're going to start seeing is I've been hinting this throughout these RCS lives with the RCS cloud, and kudos to Simon and all of the cloud team over New Zealand and Jeremy and all of them. Because one of the things we've been doing from behind the scenes is a security perspective first. And you've heard me say this beforehand in Zeta Cloud and a couple other products as well, is the idea that we're building this foundation to this house. An audio display is essentially the bathroom of this house, right? Your house could in the future contain Zeta, the master bedroom, a G selector, some baths and stuff like that. And you take all those pieces, you combine them into one house, and you have a very sturdy, structure-safe house because the foundation is based on RCS cloud security practices, which follows all those great things, including, again, best practice and securities, as well as, incorporating your domain security, single sign-on features, all that good stuff. So the big picture here is that this is part of, and you can see the app.us.audiodisplay.com versus, you can see in the previous videos, I've had the app.us.zeta.rcsworks.com, stuff like that. So again, true URL. So Mac or PC, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge. You can access a browser and the internet. You can access your audio display. Unlike your Zeta to Go, which requires a VPN. Remember, this follows RCS security. So we have an additional single sign-on for you in regards to the RCS cloud apps, right? So that's an important thing to note too here is we're talking about a direct URL, no need to VPN, all cloud-based, all of that good stuff. Right, Bob? Makes sense? So the big thing from Audio Display here is we're looking at My Stations, grouping, and campaigns. We're going to spend a lot of time in the campaigns because that's where we're going to actually go and create campaigns and organize them for users. And the stations are going to be pre-populated mostly by us when we set you up in the onboarding process. And of course, this will evolve as well as we continue to look at some of these great features you can utilize with Audio Display. And I'm telling you from right now, from seeing what we're seeing now from a couple months ago, one of the biggest things that we take a lot of pride here in RCS is listening to our clients and understanding use case examples because of what you tell us is most important. And we've already seen a couple enhancements down the pipeline to showcase that. And you'll see that here today. So let's go ahead and look at, the My Stations, the campaigns. Then I'll show you a quick background on Zeta, how to set this up. And I'll be here to answer questions for you as well, showcasing our brand new product, Audio Display. So you can see here, these are my 4 stations. I got some KRCS and WRCS FMs and HD2s with some profiles and settings on here. If I click on this, that's going to open up my profile settings as well as the current RDS features, both HD radio and RDS. Click on this gear over here. That's going to be some station settings. For right now, we set these up for you. But the biggest thing I want to showcase right now is this RDS delay and HD delay. That's for engineers. That's a really important thing to note because obviously we have some delay mechanisms going to and from the transmitter site or the signal or the now playing or whatever it is. And we introduce more VMs and more cloud-based products. We do have to get to that, I always say the air chain, from point A to point B. Sometimes there's more hurdles now in regards to the network process and also security and restrictions and all that good stuff. So it's important to note the delays here because we can go and really compensate this so that if you want to have a slight delay, we've seen users who don't necessarily want the RDS to change instantly with the song is playing. They want a slight little delay in there. And they can do that both in the RDS and the HD. So that's really important to note. Some logos here as well. But these are some of the basic settings. And again, going back to my stations here, you can see the stations list. I can do a little KRCS. I can search by it, all of that good stuff. From my perspective, this is just a really simple, great UI because it's straightforward. There's not really a lot of complexity here. There's filters, there's search options, but you'll be like, from your perspective, you're like, yeah, Nate, that makes sense. And yes, it does make sense, right? That's the beauty of some of this. And you'll see a lot more of this going to the pipeline as well. So if we go to our campaigns here, you can see I have 2 just kind of generic campaigns listed. Obviously, again, we have the search campaign option here. We can always edit existing campaigns. You can see there's actually flight dates on here. There's active. We can filter by past dates as well as show ended campaigns. That's in there too for some filter options. So again, we have a lot of users, a lot of things that are going on. There's going to be a lot of this in the process, right? Hey, let me show past campaigns, or I have 100 campaigns going for my 100 stations. Let me filter these by whatever those campaigns is. So there's a lot of options there in regards to how to view those campaigns. But for right now, I want to go over here. I want to jump to a brand new campaign, and I'm going to ignore that. And so what we can do here is essentially define what that campaign is going to be. We have the advertiser name. We'll just say RCS. We'll have the campaign. The name of the campaign, we'll call this RCS Live 2, something like that. We have our time zone. So going down here, click that drop down there. We can go over here, and I can actually go and type in Eastern and type in the Eastern New York right there, which is pretty cool as well. Then we get to our flight schedule. This is, of course, very, very important. That's going to bring us to the delivering, pending, ending flight schedule. Just click on your time frame here. I'm going to pick on the 6th. Notice the time frame. So I can say, hey, I'm going to go to either 13 and scroll up and do like 0, or I can do an actual number, your choice. And I'll pick this. We'll say the 7th, right? 11:13 p.m. Pretty easy. Those are our flight dates. The takeover, we're going to cover in just a second. We're going to add this. And you can see here, boom, boom, there's our flight date. That's going to allow us to then do the save on the bottom right. Save our flight dates. Now we're in here. We're good to go. And we can see from a priority, we have a priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3. And don't forget about the takeover. So now let's very briefly remember this example right here of the James and Joseph's travel tours, right? That's what we're doing with AudioDisplay. We have our traditional now playing export from Zeta. And when the spot block starts, we have a trigger that says, hey, I'm a spot block. Override this with AudioDisplay. AudioDisplay looks at the campaigns here based on the priorities, and that's how we're going to specify what's going to play over the air live in real time. Now, if we have typically a priority 2, that just means that we have a priority 2. We are okay. We're good to go. Let's just pretend for a second we have an advertiser that's like a year-long generic advertiser for whatever reason, right? It could be for nights or overnights or something more simple and generic. That would be a priority 3, the lowest priority, right? And that's essentially saying that, hey, you're just do your thing. It's fine. And then if I have a priority 2, we're going to override that based on the priority 3. And a priority 1 will override the priority 2 on top of that, right? Because the idea here is the highest priority wins. So if we're looking at, let's say, an everyday generic, workflow, we have somebody who's on Monday through Sunday, generic advertiser. Then we have somebody who's trying to promote a special event that's coming up. And let's say the weekend or a Thursday through Saturday, what we can do is create a brand new campaign, change that to a priority of 1 so that the priority 2 campaign will run from Monday through Thursday. Thursday, the new priority 1 campaign will take over, air its entirety. When it's done, it will switch back to the priority 2 campaign automatically in your RDS now playing in your car or your home stereo. That makes sense, right? A little bit of overrides. And we have that typically, if you think of commercial traffic, that should be a somewhat typical workflow for you. Because again, we only have one RDS now playing export. So we have to prioritize what's going over that through the AudioDisplay campaign. Now with the flights, we do have the takeover. And you notice how it's over here because it's a very unique type of takeover. This would be something like a either a sporting event or let's say a fundraising event, right? You have somebody who comes in and says, hey, we're having a flash sale on X for the next 12 hours. You don't want to go back and change all the other existing campaigns and change the priorities. You don't want to do that. Instead, we want to go and essentially do a takeover option here to say, hey, for this time frame, we'll discard my changes. We want to get rid of, or we want to prioritize this like an override, if you will, in the process. So if you look at all those kind of ways to schedule it, the priority 1, 2, and 3, the weekend versus the weekday, overnights, maybe during primary day parts, and then, of course, the takeover for a override across the board. That makes sense? We have a radio text here. I have some generic stuff here. Just say the worldwide leader in radio software. and just put some lines here. And this, of course, will be different text for HD versus the RDS. We can upload images as well. I think I have this queued up. Perfect. We have I have a 200 by 200. Use me here. Now, notice, by the way, yes, some of you are going to say, hey, wasn't there an issue with the RDS and some of the Now Playing export in cars? And yes, and that was something we took into account because obviously we want to acknowledge new technology, and our development team has been phenomenal. Kudos to Simon for really emphasizing some of this stuff to say, hey, listen, we want to do it right the first time, not find out that, oh, we forgot something down the pipeline. So you'll see certain things here. This is very restrictive. And the only reason it's restrictive is because your car stereo. That's the only reason why. So we're not going to put in giant landscapes, inside these photos. It's a very simple 200 by 200, 24 KB, a little small logo. And you're like, but Nate, high resolution, it's got to look great, but it's in your car stereo. We're not going to blow this up into a 42-inch TV. That's not what we're doing here for the most part, right? And so from there, let's give you a little disclaimer here. Just be heads up. This is what's going on. And there is gotchas here too. So for example, if you do upload a thing larger than 200 by 200, we will warn you and flag you and say, hey, we can't save that across the board, right? There is some safety measures there too. So by the way, any questions, Panos, let me know. I'm here to help out. Just let me know. I'm just going through here. Look at my chat for a quick second. We're talking about AudioDisplay, our brand new override for in-car stereo or HD radio. At this point in time, we're building a campaign. We talked about the different types of prioritized and the takeovers. We're essentially now assigning this campaign to these stations, right? So you can see that same list over here. I can do individual clicks. I can click everybody across the board, something like that. Again, very straightforward UI, which I know we take for granted, but the idea is that this does what you want it to do. It's very straightforward. Notice how I can search stations in the mix. And you'll notice here there's actually markets, formats, as well as custom for any kind of custom events here. Go back to my station list. I'm going to unselect these. So you can see there's nothing selected. My markets, I can have my Seattle, Washington market. My formats, I have my classic rock, hot AC, hot country, top 40, and the custom as well. And we're going to build these out in just a second. But we're going to go ahead and say, all right, you're going to go on here and going on here. We'll take these two stations. We'll hit next. And you can see, gives you a little preview campaign of what's going on. So this is my RCS Live 2 campaign. These are the flight dates and the time zones. This is what it's going to look like in the HD radio. This is what it's going to look like in the RDS. A great preview, great station. See the list. You can see that we're active. We're going to have it's on the schedule where it's allowed, as well as we have the channels that are authorized to have this campaign. Boom, we can save this and we're done. And by the way, just get a little helpful tool. Step 3 of 3 at the top here. Notice that little thing here? Again, very easy for you to use, very straightforward. We want to keep things simple for you. Hey, here's my station list. Here's a campaign. Add this campaign to this over here and call it a day, right? And let's go ahead and answer questions here. So Sam's got his first question, which is great. Sorry if I missed this, but can the metadata override span over multiple days? Wondering if during a fund drive, if the station wanted to put an 800 number or site over top host memos. So there's two things there, right, Sam? So don't forget, in the Zeta world, I'm going to pivot over here for 1 second. This is my Zeta system. We do have over in Zeta, we do have the option over here for the live metadata send. So think of your specific question, right? You're talking about a fundraiser, a fund drive that's going on. Very common, great scenario, Sam. If we wanted to say something like here, I can say, huge donation coming up in 5 minutes. Something like that, right? That's where, Sam, you can do your fundraiser override inside of Zeta through the Now Playing export going over the RDS, right? That's where you can say, like, hey, here's an override. There's this special thing coming on. You're essentially communicating to and from with your listenership. That's the live metadata send module that's over in Zeta. Again, think of this as an override for the non-spot block Now Playing information, right? AudioDisplay, although displays, of course, the Now Playing information, does have the key thing here is the spot blocks. So when the spot blocks start and we're doing underwriting or commercial traffic, we want to override the RDS with something there. So instead of seeing some kind of generic blank text or whatever it is, we can actually sell that and monetize that. So, for example, for your perspective, Sam, it could be a fundraiser brought to you by, or this weekend's brought to you by X, Y, and Z. Now, if I minimize this and go back to my Zeta, and let's go back here and we'll go back one more time to the campaign. What you're referring to is, now imagine if I have a priority 2, Sam. And priority 2 is essentially going to be a every day, Monday through Friday. This is what's going on. Great. Sounds good. It's brought to you by the Sam Law Firm. Sam Law Firm at this website, right? Again, RDS text line 1 and 2. So we can say Sam Law Firm, samlaw.com, something like that, right? So that would be your generic Monday through Sunday, all times of the day. But you have a fundraising event coming up. So what I can do there is, under the flight schedule, I can do a takeover from essentially Friday at noon to Sunday at 3 or 5 p.m. And that takeover here will override the priorities from this previous screen. I'm going to discard my changes. So these here, 1, 2, and 3, are going to be overwritten by the takeover. So now during the takeover, which is a second campaign, Sam, you can say it's a fundraising event weekend, if I can spell, Nate, thanks to Sam's Law Firm, samslaw.com. See that? And that would be essentially an override existing from before. Right, Tab? John, makes sense? So what we're doing here is we're having kind of default campaigns, and then we're overriding those based on priorities, or in your case, Sam, which is a great question, a full override takeover campaign, because you have some specialty programming going on, like a fundraising event. So hopefully that made sense, Sam, right? By the way, we mentioned earlier about grouping stations together. Let's jump back over here to the groups section for right now. And you can see that this is where I combine those stations into my groups. I have 2 groups here that I made generically, which is just my KRCS FM and my WRCS FM sites. And they're just very simple, where I take a group, hit a plus. These are my stations I have allowed. I'm going to take you and you, save this as a group. Done. Call it a day. I'm going to hit cancel on here. I'll go to my markets. Same exact thing. I have my market names. I can attach them by markets over here, group them together by markets. So I can say all of my Northeast markets will get X, Y, and Z. Or I can take all those Northeast markets and put them into a group and call it the Northeast stations. And I can do a mass select all on the campaign based on those markets or those groups. Or again, the formats that we saw earlier: classic rock, hot IC, hot country, top 40. Those are the stations I have in my demo database right now. And the very last thing, if enabled, I want to show you this, is we have an option for shows, for assignment grid, and schedule. Essentially, this idea is that I have a 24/7 schedule. Notice the week and the day. And I can go ahead here and schedule a specific show or some type of override based on unique programming. So slightly different than Sam's example of having a fundraising event and a takeover for that weekend. This would be for, like, let's say, news, talk, and sports programming. So you could say that this type of let's say, a sporting event is brought to you by X, Y, and Z. We'll pick on Sam again and call it Sam's Law Firm. Congratulations. You're getting a lot of love in the advertising world today here, Sam. And so what we're doing is essentially saying, there is going to be a game tonight at 7 p.m. through midnight. And whenever there's a sporting event going on, the sporting events is brought to you by Sam's Law Firm. So going back to the image over here, you can see that we would have, during the sporting event, have a unique campaign that would be specific to the sporting event schedule, which, by the way, overrides the takeover, which overrides the priority list, so on and so forth. So you can kind of see that balance, right? Right, Sakis? Right? You can kind of see how there's a balancing all these across the board. That's what we're trying to achieve here with AudioDisplay. And again, just to summarize, this should be a good problem to have, right? This is an expense that should pay for itself in only a couple either weeks or months, because of the unique advertising package. It allows your sales team to go and say, I have an advertiser. Do you want unique placement? Do you want it in your car? Imagine going to a fast food restaurant, or let's say a local restaurant, and people are in their car, and you can have a takeover campaign from, let's say, 3 to 5 p.m. And if your, let's say, restaurant is advertising a special food happy hour, well, we can do a takeover campaign. Imagine that for a second. Go to campaigns here, have a brand new campaign. The flight dates are going to be essentially, we can either create a schedule or put a couple days, whatever it could be. Pick those flight dates over here, discard those changes. And then the text could be a hungry, go to, I'm going to pick on somebody else here. Let's pick on Bob. Bob's Restaurant, right? And over here and say like Bob's Restaurant. Delicious food, amazing happy hour prices. Boom. Now we have a takeover or a priority or a schedule. And we now have, based on you selling this to your advertiser, you're telling them, hey, Bob's Restaurant, Nate is in his car at 3 p.m. He's listening to, in this case, Doja Cat. He goes over here and says, hey, look at that. Oh, it's Bob's Restaurant. That's pretty good. I'm going to go over there. And again, there's so many tools now to monetize users in cars, people driving around in cars during rush hour traffic. Think of how to monetize this both with numbers analytics as well as however you set your rate cards across the board. This is a really, really cool feature that should be, from your perspective, could be as complex as you want it to be based on the campaigns and the priorities and the takeovers, or as simplistic as you want it to be based on a simple, here's one advertiser, they bought for the entire month. I set a campaign for the month, call it a day. If Sam has a fundraising event, fine. We do a takeover for a weekend, return back to our normal advertising campaign. All that makes sense? It's a really, really, really cool product. Again, showing a couple examples here. So for example, this would look at in a car stereo. You can see here the nice image over there, your station name, as well as some lines here for the RDS about what they're trying to advertise. Yeah, obviously it's a car space in a window. So we're not going to write, the War and Peace of advertising packages. So just be aware. I think there is a character limit somewhere in there. But, we have plenty of room and space here to get your advertising message across. And that's there in our car dashboard. Visually speaking, it's such a great resource and advertising package for you. I said, really excited for this. And of course, from the Zetta perspective, oh man, it's so complex because it's an RCS product, and that we have all this integration across all our products, and that Zetta has multiple now playing exports. Live metadata now exports. And so all we do here is we're just adding to the mix. This is super, super simple. We're just going here and saying, hey, it's a Zetta full format. We're going to give you some of these URLs and delivery mechanisms. We're going to go put some settings in here, and boom, we're done. Just like this, it took my Zetta system like 3 seconds set up. Boom, 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 done. And of course, we're going to help you with that onboarding anyway, so don't worry about that. But notice how simple it is, because this is all part of the RCS, world, the RCS enterprise. So they work together. Things are easy. Zetta is so flexible, can do a couple things. And I know the reason I bring this up about adding an additional or replacing the live metadata is we have some users that will say, well, I already have one special dedicated now playing export. That's fine. We'll do a second one across the board, right? Because then I can handle multiple now playing exports. So we're not like kind of taking away something else. We're just adding this into your air chain, into your workflow to generate revenue for you. That's the idea here, right? Again, going to your clients and saying, hey, wouldn't it be great to have your logo right here driving your car? It would. And it's simple to do, right? Makes sense? Last call for questions here. So Peter, if you have any questions for me, Fred, any questions for me, Pablo, any questions for me? Again, AudioDisplay, the takeover of your car stereo. And again, with campaigns through RCS's AudioDisplay, really, really exciting stuff here. And as you can see, it's also straightforward. That's the beauty of this. We're not learning very complex things. We're setting it up very easily. And then you're essentially just defining the campaign. That's all you're doing here, right? Exciting stuff. Of course, if you have any questions, you can check out audiodisplay.com. We're always here to help out. Don't forget the archive. You can check out past videos and other different types of, great events that we have coming up. That's over at this guy here, rcsworks.com/rcs-live. Or you can also check us out on the road as well. I mentioned earlier, we were just coming back from Orlando. We're going to be in Argentina, as well as Alaska and other shows as well. So if you want us to be somewhere, you can reach out to marketing@rcsworks.com. But again, we're here for you and answer your questions. So we're always here to help out. Email us, reach out to us on social media. If you have audio display questions, reach out to your local RCS sales representative, and we'll get you in touch and get you going with audio display. So thank you so much. I will see you next Thursday. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.